We got 6-2 Auburn taking on 6-2 Texas A&M. This game is going to kick off 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. Texas A&M is a 4.5-point favorite in this matchup. Now, last week Auburn defeated Ole Miss 31-20. There are a lot of Auburn fans out there who hate me because they think I have a vendetta against Auburn because somehow I always end up picking against Auburn. I don't hate Auburn. I don't have nothing against Auburn. You know, all I really do is just pick the games. I don't have a personal vendetta. And a lot of Auburn fans say that every time I pick Auburn to lose, they always win. That's not true because I picked Auburn to lose against Penn State. They lost against Penn State. I picked them to lose against Georgia, and they lost against Georgia. You know, now I did pick them to lose against Arkansas. They won that game. Picked them to lose against Ole Miss last week. They won that game. Okay, I'm like 2-2, 2-3, but I don't have anything, no personal vendetta against Auburn, okay? So I just want to clear that up. I don't hate Auburn. I'm not even, some people were claiming that I was an Alabama fan or Alabama homer. Like, why can't I just do predictions? Like, why does it always have to be something personal? I promise you guys, it's not personal. I just picked the win. I just pick who I think is going to win, who I think is going to lose. It's nothing personal. It's just a prediction. Why do I have to why do Auburn fans hate me? Like, it's nothing personal, you feel me? But I definitely appreciate all the love that you Auburn fans give the channel, rather if you love me or hate me, because that does go a long way to helping the channel grow. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in to the videos, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this one. Now, you got Texas A&M coming off a bye week, and this is a really big matchup because this game is going to be huge in determining how the SEC West is going to shape up and who's going to end up representing the SEC West in this year's SEC Championship game, okay? Auburn can make the SEC Championship game if they win out. That includes winning this game and beating Alabama. And Texas A&M can make it if they win out and Alabama suffers another loss this year. So this game has huge implications when it comes to deciding who's going to make it to the SEC Championship game. This is pretty much an elimination game, if you want to call it that. And the stakes are going to be incredibly high, okay? Now, Auburn, in my opinion, is coming off their best defensive performance. Matt Corral, even though he wasn't completely 100%, there was a time during this game early on when he had to come out the game and the backup quarterback came in and whatnot. But overall, Auburn's defense was really impressive, okay? Especially in terms of what they were able to do inside of the red zone. Ole Miss went for it on 4th down 3 times inside the red zone, and Auburn stopped them. Just plain out stopped them. So I was really impressed with how Auburn's defense played last week. And I think that was their best performance that they had on defense so far this season. Now, Matt Corral, 21 of 37, 289 pass yards, interception, ran for 45 rushing yards, and had a rushing touchdown. But obviously, he wasn't himself. He was battling injuries. But either way, that was still a pretty solid win on Auburn's behalf. Now, Bo Nix also had a really good game, 22 of 30, 276 pass yards, a touchdown, 30 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, I saw a preview online before recording this, and it was comparing Zach Calzada, the quarterback for Texas A&M, and Bo Nix, and pretty much the article said that these are two of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC. I don't really agree with that statement, and I'm not a Bo Nix homer. I'm not a fan of Bo Nix. I'm not biased towards Bo Nix. As a matter of fact, I've been heavily critical of Bo Nix on this channel over the last couple of years, but I feel like Bo Nix is having a pretty good season. And, you know, I think a lot of people are tied down to the past narrative about Bo Nix, what he's done in the past, what he's done on the road and stuff like that. But I really feel like Bo Nix has had a pretty solid season, and I'm not really understanding why the national media still continues to say that Bo Nix isn't a great QB. Like, I think you can make the argument and say that Bo Nix has been a top 4, top 3 quarterback in the SEC this year. I mean, what? Who's number 1? Bryce Young, we know that. You got Matt Corral. Then at number 3, you definitely could make the argument. I mean, you got KJ Jefferson from Arkansas. Okay, like, I definitely feel like Bo Nix has been one of the 5 or at least 4 best quarterbacks in this conference this season. Don't really understand why he continues to get pooped on by the media. Now, one thing about Auburn is that their offense doesn't feature a lot of dynamic wide receivers, in my opinion, okay? But they do a really good job of distributing the football between not only their wide receivers, but the tight ends and getting the ball out to the running back. So they pretty much implement everybody in the passing game, which is really impressive because that shows you that they know how to spread the wealth. They know how to spread the love. They're spreading the cornbread. You know, they're handing out plates. You know, Bo Nix is dishing out to his playmakers. And it's not just the wide receivers. Like, yeah, we say that Auburn doesn't have, you know, a lot of great wide receivers as of right now, but they do have a pretty good group of tight ends who not only are a factor in the passing game, but they're also a factor on the ground as well, because these tight ends are also used in run packages when they choose to go 12 personnel, which is what we saw Auburn do a lot of last week. They had 12 personnel. There was sometimes when they had 3 tight ends on the field for additional blocking in the run game. So I really like the fact that Auburn is able to get everybody involved in the passing game. Now, the focal point for both of these two teams is obviously going to be their running back groups. Okay, we already know about Tank Bigsby. He's had an amazing season. Last week against Ole Miss, 23 carries for 140 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 6.1 yards per carry. We also can't forget about the freshman running back Jarquez Hunter. Then you look at Texas A&M. We know Isaiah Spiller is one of the best running backs in all of college football. Now, Auburn had 3 sacks versus Ole Miss last week. And for Texas A&M, they have played pretty well over the last couple of weeks, ever since their win against Alabama. But I definitely feel like if Auburn can get consistent pressure on Zach Calzada, they have a really good chance of winning this game, because when you look at when Texas A&M has went on this winning streak, when they beat Alabama, one thing I noticed is that Zach Calzada barely had any pressure in his face. But when Zach Calzada is under duress and he's forced to have to try to get outside the pocket or try to make something happen or try to throw the ball when there's pressure in his face, he isn't the same quarterback. So it's really important that Auburn is able to get pressure on Zach Calzada, because if you allow Zach Calzada all day to sit back in the pocket and throw the football, he's going to shred you. So it's really important that Auburn is able to get that pass rush going in that game, which I definitely believe can happen, because Auburn has a pretty solid defensive line. And even though the offensive line for Texas A&M definitely has played well over the last couple of games, I really feel like that's going to be an intriguing matchup to watch inside of the trenches for Auburn and Texas A&M. So the team that I'm going to take to win this game, I'm going to take Auburn. Surprise, surprise. The reason why I want to take Auburn to win this game is because, first of all, I like the fact that Auburn's defense is going to be able to cause some issues and some havoc when it comes to the offensive line of Texas A&M. Even though Texas A&M is coming off a bye week, I believe that Auburn is playing some of their best football. So is Texas A&M, but I definitely feel like the offensive line for Texas A&M isn't going to be able to hold up completely well against Auburn's defensive line. Now, I'm not saying that Texas A&M is going to give up a 7-sack performance or anything like that, but I do feel like there's going to be some key drives in this game that pass rush for Auburn is going to be able to get home and get to Zach Calzada. So I'm going to take Auburn to get the victory. I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring affair. I think Auburn wins this game 20-17 is going to be my final score prediction in this matchup.